My name is Ivy Sun, and I'm the ambassador of WIL Toronto US chapter. Today, I'm here with Rebecca Pan. Rebecca is the Vice President of Commercial Financial Services at RBC. She has an MBA from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business and earned her CFA and CBV designations. Rebecca currently serves as the board of Toronto Zoo, board of E. Hong Foundation, advisor for the Ted Rogers Leadership Center, and the honorary advisor for the Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto. We are so excited to have you here, Rebecca. Welcome.
Well, thanks a lot, Ivy. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. So excited to be here today.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. To get things started, how about sharing with us about your career journey into leadership and how you discovered your calling?
Yeah, thank you, Ivy. And when I look back, I would say my career journey is not quite linear, and it's definitely not something that I planned all along. I will say it's been quite a bit of zigzag across different geography, different industry, and functions. I started off as a management consultant in Hong Kong, and then moved on to telecom industry in China, doing strategy and acquisition, and then moved to the US in telecom industry, and came to Canada 14 years ago and has been with the banking industry. But within the banking industry, I've taken many different roles, start with capital market, investment banking, and then corporate strategy, corporate development, data analytics, and now I'm in the sales leadership role. I remember the late Steve Jobs said in my commencement to share his life lessons. One of the life lessons is about connecting the dots. He said, and I quote, "You can't connect the dots going forward or looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future." And that's been the kind of approach that I've been taking. I always try to focus what areas that I'm curious about, what get me up in the morning, get me excited, and what gave me the deepest sense of joy. And it's the deepest sense of joy that made me realize I'm really passionate about people's personal and career growth, no matter they are in data, in M&A, or in strategy. And I also love the art and science of motivating a team towards a strategic direction with a deep sense of purpose. So all of these have since become my true north.
Wow, thank you for sharing. That was really a wonderful journey led by the deepest sense of joy. So with that, I'd like to pivot into a more specific question. What is your definition of inclusive leadership? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, to me, inclusive leadership is really the capacity to manage and lead a very diverse group of people effectively and respecting their uniqueness in a very empathetic and non-biased way. There are lots of research that say what leaders say and what leaders do make up to 70% of the difference for one to feel whether they are included versus not. And this really matters because we all know when people feel more included, they tend to speak up more and they tend to go the extra mile and they tend to collaborate more. So all of these are discretionary efforts that people choose to put on and will eventually support the organization to achieve their vision and strategy successfully. And to understand why, I'll quote something we all have heard about or have seen, the Maslow hierarchy. Remember the triangle with different layers. In fact, there's a version of the Maslow hierarchy for employee engagement. In the bottom layer is what they call the survival. So that means I hate my job, but I just come in to put food on the table. And the second tier is called security. I don't like my job, but I don't want to get fired, and I will just get on with it. The third layer is belonging. I feel I'm part of something bigger. And the fourth tier is importance. I feel I'm a vital part of something bigger, business. And the top tier is the self-actualization. I'm a high flyer. I can make a big contribution to the franchise. So as you can see, the layer of the sense of belonging is really critical and fundamental for someone to get past feeling insecure or fear, but actually getting more engaged and to achieve feeling important and self-actualized.
Yes, it really resonated with me that the sense of belonging and making people feel included definitely goes a long way to build an engaged and enabled team. I know that you have been a big advocate for diversity and inclusion. What has influenced your thinking about D&I and motivated you to get involved in being an advocate for change?
Mhm. Well, D&I has always been important. As we all know, there are values of having a diverse community, better perspective, more out of the box thinking, and having a team that more resemble of your diverse customer base. Well, on the other hand, we always know racism is here, is everywhere. However, in the past year or past 2 years, the pandemic really bring the worst and the best of people. There, anti-Asian racism, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, Atlanta shooting, and our own Canadian history, how Indigenous people were being treated in the residential school. The list just go on and on. And there's a recent incident involving an Asian woman, Deloitte employee, who was killed by being pushed down the New York City train track. Now, we don't know whether it's hate crime or mental illness involved. What I know from reading is this person has been a strong D&I advocate inside and outside Deloitte. We can't stop but acknowledge that there's still a lot that need to be done and addressed in the D&I journey collectively. Some of us are fortunate that we're still here, we're healthy, we're safe. But there are others, unfortunately, life cut short and their dreams unrealized and their pursuit unfinished. All of these really motivate me to go from being a bystander, hey, I'm good, I don't commit racism, to ask myself, can I be a better ally? What do I need to learn and unlearn? Can I be a catalyst of change? Can I advocate change in other people? And talking about change, I really think everyone can be an advocate or leaders in the D&I conversation. And two things that come to mind that I think we can all do. One is self-awareness or humility. The second one is curious. On self-awareness, I admit that it's human nature and tendency. We like to categorize and group things, especially for things that we are not familiar with. Now, in itself, it's not a bad thing. But when unchecked, that kind of thinking can turn into stereotype. And for stereotype, if unchecked, it can turn into prejudice. And if prejudice unchecked, it can turn into discrimination. So you can see having the self-awareness to check your biases is so important. I recently came across something called the IAT, Implicit Association Test, that is developed by the Harvard University. It's a really great test to quickly check what kind of bias or association you may have with certain people or certain circumstances. So I highly encourage everyone to check it out. Second, curiosity. Curiosity is really the catalyst for an inclusive environment. Curious leaders are more interested in other people, particularly when those people are quite different from them. They're also less likely to hire people who are just like them and more eager to understand why people think or do the way they do, especially when they don't agree with those leaders. So stay aware and stay curious.
Well, that was very inspiring and very informative. I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to speak to us and sharing your journey and insights on inclusive leadership. I'm so delighted to have this conversation with you. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Ivy.